Yeah, so today we're talking about making money into a machine. Making money into a machine. So the basis of what you're doing is just making buying things to make commands, in essence. Basically buying stuff to make commands in your machine. Stay to the end to find out how we get there. Welcome to the news. So what we're talking about, in essence, is focusing on how to make money into a machine by just making buying, not even worrying about selling, because selling is part of the process that develops the recycling process, similar to a system, a closed-circuit system that corresponds to reinvigorating itself back into your closed-circuit system, where you can just focus on continuous buying, more or less, because the essence of how we try to get there is by having inspiration. Inspiration corresponds to speaking from the Spirit. The Spirit is what in essence guides inspiration in life in terms of businesses. So it's best to be able to try to focus on certain aspects of alignment with business and the Spirit to get inspiration, to try to search for inspiration, to attempt to align with inspiration, because the more content that you look at that regards trying to develop a business process mentally and internally relates to the market of attention. The market of attention is something that starts to build a person, a personality, like a person or a persona in terms of a personal brand or a personal business or an interest to try to develop on a personal business. Because in essence, in the market of attention, in the economy of attention, the economy of the day, of a life, of who we are as human beings, more or less, it's guided by attention. Attention is the thing that is an aspect that corresponds to who as people that we somewhat are. It's like you could almost say that that's what our focus is as humans, is an accumulation of attention that is in essence ever present and ever folding into the future. And it's just based on that corresponds to inspiration as a guide. Inspiration is a guide for the money machine. Basically, the money machine corresponds to, if you were thinking of yourself as sitting in the middle of the money machine, in essence, that's what the world is. And then we're just retransposing the essence of life and the essence corresponding to controlling life, also relating to money as a tool. Money as a tool that has power to cause action and reaction, if you will. And based on buying, so buying is the mechanic that develops action, in essence. So if you're sitting in the middle of this money machine and you actually do get some money, because when you're a kid, for example, you're given money by parents sometimes to be able to facilitate simple basics like going to school, for example. So on the outskirts of that, on the outsides of that, if you're very mindful to the coin of the 1 cent penny status of the most minimal amount of money, the corresponding energy that's within this money, that in essence you can start to very small and mindful way when you're a child, to be able to see about how growing and conceptualizing connection to growing and inspiration can connect with each other, so that your machine can somehow continue to try to build in terms of a business self as time moves on, basically, because there's never really an end game. You never really win in the game of business. It doesn't matter how much money you have, if you have $1 billion or if you have $15. So that's one of the elements that's relevant, quite relevant, is understanding that to begin with, because it's always a matter of trying to grow based on attention, if possible. The market of attention is trying to guide and sway the essence of growth and facilitation of a machine that is a human to begin with, but the inspiration is somewhat trying to guide a business soul, in spirit is what inspiration means. So using that to be able to drive the money machine, which in essence corresponds to the idea that almost in a negative way, but it kind of sounds negative, but if you're sitting in the middle of the money machine and for example, if you get above $800,000 in life, for example, then you can order Uber Eats every day, you can sit in an apartment every day, you can have the money machine just continue to craft a process that revolves around you, so that you can get taken places in Ubers. You just show up and you get you get the residuals of the money machine, basically, that you're paying for these things, and then whatever's your residuals continuing to develop more money based on the assets of for example, $800,000. If you have $800,000, that's a magic number that connects contextually a more lazy lifestyle. For example, that's how I look at it personally, because the idea of just living lazy because you get to a certain amount of money is not the ideal goal per se, but it's a matter of understanding that as a money machine in of itself, because that hypothetical number allows for you to be taken care of to the extent where the money is actually flowing and surrounding around you, and then the money in of itself is taking care of itself, like growing upon itself as well, based on being in certain or the right investments and things of this nature to help to facilitate a life, like little legs that are growing out from under you, almost like a robot body. Money as like a robot body. That's the depiction that we're trying to expand on in this episode, so to speak, that combines the essence of inspiration and also the attention market and the attention economy corresponding to an unfolding human being, more or less like an unfolding human being around every corner. There's consistent attention that revolves around who necessarily you might be spending time with, and like information and content, like information content that might be coming from that person per se, and then also a matter of a business, following business pursuits, following business interests that corresponds to not knowing what you're going to learn from one minute to the next, but expanding on that future focus that's moving in the direction of an asset, where you're trying to unfold yourself in the direction of assets in the most time possible, so that information can try to compound on top of each other. And as a human being, you're compounding a mindset that corresponds to attention. Very much attention is developing the money and the asset mindset, if you will. But fundamentally, inspiration is what tells the mind that it's in line. Inspiration, in spirit. It's like a thing that talks about being in tune, like in tune with by being in the spirit. It's like being a car in the middle of the road. It's like when you're in your spirit, it's like the car you're being inside of the spirit, as though the spirit is like the road and you're inside of those lanes where you want to be mentally and physically and metaphysically to be able to focus on the items that are in front of you per se. So if you're inspired by business elements, that you want to continue to stay in spirit and inside those lanes to try to grow and continue to focus on those lanes to add value to that compounding of attention as you continue to try to develop more attention in that lane focus towards building an asset mindset. But nonetheless, we're talking about money and purely buying, purely making buys, but those inspirations and those attentions of the random attention economy, because you never know what's around every corner of every attention piece. But like YouTube, for example, can help add value to that because it knows what you like, it knows what you want. And if you're focusing on assets, it'll continue to feed you assets. And that's what you want, is compounding assets for your attention to be able to continue to drive the vehicle in the lane of the spirit vehicle, so that you can continue to drive towards more assets, and then therefore be able to use the money machine, the money robot that's surrounding you, that's also known as the economy that's around us, in essence, to be able to use that money robot so that you're able to facilitate moves that are always corresponding to asset moves, where whether you're investing in education or more in other assets, that you're in the direction of asset moves, so that robot body can be continuously based on one of your most consistently effective and influential powers over this life and your life, and the growth of the inspiration and attention expansion and synergy with the compounding focus of the directions of your asset attention, as the asset attention tries to grow and go with you to the more assets, as you're focused with the mindset of the inspiration that is the lane that's guiding the spirit to try to pursue more and compound more, and then therefore you are able to come back to the money machine, and your money machine runs better because you're continuing to invest in assets, and you're trying to buy assets with that money machine, and that is meant to continue to grow. So eventually, it's not that you want to get to that lazy lifestyle, it's that you want to get to that lazy lifestyle because you've earned it, and then try to continue to outgrow that lifestyle, and continue to add more fundamental, interesting tricks and trades and facets and options, and in essence, items to that money machine, so that money machine does nothing except continue to grow, because you only have really two choices, growing or not growing, and so you may as well just be continuing to grow, but you need to focus on the asset consistency of consistent surrounding of assets with other assets and other asset people and other asset focuses, and then finding inspiration in the business realm. The business realm, we call that business music in this podcast, because that helps us solve problems in the world, that helps us develop the global good deeds economy, which we're focused on here, and also the global philanthropy energy grid, to try to empower all human beings by global collaboration and collectivity, and focused on solving problems, which corresponds to organically developing assets. And that's what the nature of love is all about, is nature and its ability to, through nature energy, solve these problems and to try to ride those waves going forward. Leveraging money, a money machine that's already around us in the economy with something called money, to be able to inspire and spark consistency, so the machine grows itself. The machine grows itself by just making buys, buying purchases, buying assets, focus on only buying assets after all. And that's sort of the focus, to continue to make the machine more effective and more efficient so that it continues to add to itself, sort of like artificial intelligence trying to build itself. Like the money machine is meant to continue to build itself. If you continue to focus on assets and build and buy itself, buy more for itself to grow itself, in other words, with assets and focusing on asset mindset mentality and having the attention guide you through the inspiration, spirit guidance, and then the money machine can grow and buy more for itself assets to be more asset minded and focused. And that's all for now. Thanks again, Dinky Tech and Change for Game Studios, for the money machine today. Bye, peace, bye. And let's all remember to push for world peace every single day. Let's all remember to push for world peace every single day. Let's push for world peace every single day. And also, let's remember to try to clear the animal shelters. Let's clear all the animal shelters in the world. Let's clear all the animal shelters in the world, because we can foster all the shelter animals. We can adopt all the shelter animals in the world. We can rescue all the shelter animals in the world. And we can also hire the shelter animals as healers. We can also hire the shelter animals as healers all throughout the world, so that they don't have to be mistreated in animal shelters. And we can clear the animal shelters, and we can hire the shelter animals as healers throughout our communities. Hire the shelter animals as healers throughout our communities, because they also work for free, and they could use better purpose and use better jobs and be able to add value and be therapeutic energy for humans and humanity, to help us be more harmonious as humans and among humanity, for all the animals in the world, to clear all the animal shelters, to try to get them to transition their energy in terms of therapeutic energy to all humans, so we can clear the animal shelters to add value to humanity in terms of harmony if possible. And let's push for world peace every single day and clear the animal shelters every day. That's all for now. Thanks again, Dinky Tech and Change for Game Studios. Bye. Peace. Bye.